Back to subtype discriminators, which you've talked about before, but I have two very different examples of how they're being used and the overall layout for both of them. I like the first one, but for selfish reasons. What I mean by that is that I'm using one variable or attribute, knows programmer, to determine which subtype that I'm using. Now, by the way, the subtype is using a very simple letter in order to determine which one of these is our instance really going to be. Now, there's a couple of problems with that. Number one, what if I wanted machinist instead that also starts with an M? You're probably going to say, well, not a big deal. Okay, I'll make it into a string. Fine, that makes sense. Okay? Bad part is what if we have somebody that's both? That may not apply for this particular organization. But there's no way to really have a pilot that's also an accountant. I know, 99% of the time you're not going to have that. But that's what could happen here. In this overall setup, you're actually going to have two discriminators. And the reason is, honest to God, why? Ask my poor department head. He is a professor, but he's also an administrator. He's a department head. So he really is both. I think he still teaches classes. He doesn't have enough to do. So that's why in this particular case, they went with two discriminators, which you can see them both listed here on our overall diagram, because somebody could actually be both. And I have a live example of it. So the design is going to be different when it comes to your discriminator because, again, if you have everybody that's they're either going to be an accountant, they're not going to be a mechanic, they're not going to be a pilot. If you have that set up, you can get away with one variable. But if you have the option of, well, frankly, you could be multiple rows, then this is the setup that you're going to have. There was another one previously about professor, student. I was one of those. I was a student taking classes at the same time being a professor. So multiple rows, your discriminator is going to have to be multiple attributes. So watch your overall design with that. And that's why you see it done differently in two different setups.